Hi, this is Gio, co-host of the After Away from the Rink podcast. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not reflect those of the hosts or producers. This podcast contains discussions of drugs, alcohol, trauma, and other sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. The content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical, legal, or professional advice. If you need help, please contact a number in our description or simply send us an email at afterpodcastofficial@gmail.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Episode 6, After Away from the Rink podcast. Got myself, DJ McGrath. Got my boy, my co-host, Giovanni Flaminio. How you doing today, brother?
Doing well, Deej. I was looking forward to this all week. We've just been rolling through the episodes, and yeah, it's just good times, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, it is. Hey, it's awesome, especially sharing or having voice now of bringing on current former athletes and talking about some mental health, talking stuff away from the rink. Hey.
Yeah, like I say every week now, just important conversations, and I'm going to keep saying it because I'm just like so grateful we're able to have these conversations and help not only the next generation, people today who are struggling, anyone who's having a tough time. I think this stuff can resonate. But man, I wanted to ask you, like, how are you doing? I know the speaking engagements are lined up for this month, and I wanted to ask you, like, how do you compare it to, you've been doing this several years now, and I remember you sharing that first time you got asked to speak and how like nerve-wracking it was and the pressure. How has that changed, man? Do you still get nervous, or do you just use that as motivation going into these big talks, brother?
Yeah, and obviously that's a good question. You know what, G? I don't think the nerves or any of that will ever go away. Like you said, I've been doing it for over 2.5 years now, and every time I step into the gym, it's like stepping into a rink. It's like stepping into a game 7. I got a mount number of kids, students, and me speaking to everybody, sharing my experiences, and yeah, I still got regret and some things of who am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Some remorse, some me thinking I'm not good enough to be doing this, but I know I'm doing something right. And I always say this story, share back to when I first spoke, and people ask me of how do you get over that hump of sharing your story, because it's hard, right? And especially in front of a lot of people. I'll never forget, I always share this story, and when some people ask me this, is when I got asked to share my story for the first time in Toronto. And this was a week after I shared my story on the internet for the first time. And I got flown out to Toronto, and I remember it didn't really soak in until I got to Saskatoon airport. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, what am I going to say? I was speaking to 2 hockey teams, and I didn't know what I was really getting myself into. So remember, I was in Saskatoon. I grabbed a journal at the airport. And I remember, okay, this is going to be a couple-hour flight. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write everything out of what I'm going to say. And shit you not, man, I couldn't get a word out. I remember I got my name on the piece of paper, and I was so like frustrated, like I didn't know what to say. I started freaking out. I wanted to go back home, but I'm already up in the air and I couldn't turn around. So I was like really frustrated with myself. But what I remember when I landed, I remember thinking to myself, like, Deej, like, this is your story. Just speak. And I remember chucking that journal in the garbage when I got to the Toronto Pearson Airport. And that's what I did, man, is I just spoke. And when it's about your story, you don't got to make anything up. You don't got to slideshows and any of that. I just be myself. That's the biggest thing. And yeah, I got 5 speaking engagements coming up here, 3 at the end of the month here, and then a couple next month. And it's good because it's the best feeling, man, is when I always get a kid or 2 coming up after and thanking me, and then them sharing their story. So I've been told early in my speaking career that if you could help out that one person out of however many kids that are listening, then that means you've done your job. So yeah, great question, man. Obviously still get the nerves, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. You told me that like shortly after it happened, and I forgot that was your initial experience. But yeah, you said a few good things, and the one I liked the most, the best advice I got with when I get to share my story in the recovery space sometimes, is you can't fuck up your own story. And that helped. Just that little sentence helped me so much to go into it. Yeah, man, just speak what happened, experience strength and hope. And I just go into it with that mindset, and it goes far more smooth when I do that versus trying to rehearse the whole talk.
Yeah.
That's only got me into trouble. And you don't even, it just goes off course early anyways. Yeah, man, happy for you. Looking forward to these engagements you have this month, and best of luck with that, brother.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's going to be a good time, but I am super excited for today's guest. This guy truly represents the grind of chasing a hockey dream. From growing up on a farm just outside Dinsmore, Saskatchewan, to leaving home at 16 to play in the Western Hockey League with the Lethbridge Hurricanes, where he became captain for 3 seasons and one of the most respected leaders in the organization. Undrafted, but never doubted his path. He's continued to earn everything the hard way. Today's a pro defenseman with the Abbotsford Canucks in the American Hockey League and a 2025 Calder Cup champion. But this story goes way beyond hockey. It's about resilience, leadership, and staying the course when things get tough. The boys, we are fired up for this one. Please, ladies and gentlemen, how I like to start this podcast, Arnie, how are you doing today, brother?
Good. Yeah, super excited to be on here today and to tell my story and let the people, hear a little bit about me that they might not know. And yeah, I'm just pumped to be on here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course, Arnie. And a little background, I got to know you last year, started you're up and down the East Coast AHL there, and I remember you started following me and reached out, and we got to work with each other. And do you want to pull up this picture here? Joe was very fortunate. I was super pumped up. He came over with the Calder Cup there last year. To me and Duke here, a couple of photos here I want to bring up. But Joe, man, I want you to explain. Obviously, people see you at the rink, you on the ice, thinking everything is a great time. You're doing awesome. But do you want to share of when we started talking that you kind of had that life experience in a hotel room for a couple months?
Yeah, like I said, I was down in the coast until the start of February and then got the call to come up to Abbotsford. And for the first, like you said, 2.5, 3 months, I spent it in the hotel here. And it's tough. No car, new city, new team. You go to the rink and then you come back and you go back to a hotel, just 4 empty walls. They can close in on you pretty quick with nothing going on. It's tough. You think about playing your first game on the American League, and it was such a great feeling. But at the same time, I was leaving the rink, going back to a hotel where it can be pretty dark times, long hours away from the rink. It was to get the opportunity to come up here and play was unbelievable. At the same time, it was one of the hardest times of my life. No home, no car, no family out here, new cities. It was great, but at the same time, it was super hard.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really important for you to share that, Joe, because everyone just sees, like I said, you at the hockey rink, and now you're in a hotel room. You don't know if you're going to go get sent down back to the East Coast or you're staying with the Abbotsford Canucks. I wanted to ask you, man, I know when you reached out to me, and that's huge respect to you, but at that time, were you talking to anybody? Because you have got to have some lonely nights sitting in the hotel room, not knowing what you're doing. Yeah, you have a girlfriend. Yeah, you have your mom and dad, obviously not there, and you'd obviously pick up your phone, but how are you handling that? Because you probably had a lot of lonely nights in the hotel room, not knowing where you're going to go.
Yeah, 100%. No, to be honest, my girlfriend will be the first one to say that I'm not very good about opening up and talking about my feelings and that sort of thing. I just kept it inside. I just put the mask on and played the hard, tough guy. Everything's fine. So no, honestly, like I said, how I come across you is I accidentally replied to one of your Instagram stories that I didn't even mean to do. And then you shot me a little text, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. You've been holding this stuff in, get it off your chest, get it out there. From that moment on, I felt a lot better. I can let this stuff go. It's been a few years where I just kept bottling it up. And then finally, I like to think everything happens for a reason. And if I maybe didn't accidentally misclick on one of your Instagram stories, I might have never reached out and started talking to you.
Yeah, and that's super important, man, because you and I both know there's a lot of athletes, hell, in the AHL, probably the show, but a lot of younger kids that were in your shoes, Joe, that, are scared to speak up, or maybe they don't have anybody in their circle that they're confident with speaking up to. And yeah, and people could relate with you, Joe. You're an elite level hockey player. Obviously, you're a fighter. You're a hell of a teammate. And it's hard to speak up. I just want you to share. I know it felt good. You had a lot of stuff that came off your shoulders when you opened up to me. And you're right. Everything does happen for a reason. But do you want to go further into that on how that kind of helped your feelings, how it lifted that weight off your shoulders, Joe? Because this is important stuff, especially for athletes. And you're an elite athlete that finally surrendered and asked somebody for help. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, like I said, probably going back to my 18, 19-year-old year in Lethbridge is when I started to feel that. And then I just kept keeping it inside, and you wake up hoping you're going to feel better and you don't. And then you go to the rink and you can't be yourself at times. And you got enough pressure at the rink as is. And to keep those thoughts and those worries inside at all times it affected me a lot as a person. I'd go to the rink and try to be your best and you try to put your best foot forward. But when your mind's always racing a million miles an hour and you got that sick feeling, those butterflies inside you all the time, it's hard. It's really hard to perform at the best of your ability. When I finally let it go, I felt I thought about doing it for so long and I never pulled the trigger on it. And then when I finally did, like that weight, like they say, the weight off your shoulders, just to let it all out and to say it was something that I didn't know how it was going to go. Like when I said, when I first time I met with you, I was sick to my stomach before the call, anxiety so bad. And then by the time I was done, I was so happy and calm and relieved that I'd finally done it. And then from there on out, going to the rink every day, my mind wasn't like worrying as much about that stuff. And I could be a better player and be the best player that I could be.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe, for the vulnerability, and thanks for coming on today, man. We really appreciate it. And I want to go back a little bit, just early part of the career, growing up, small town Saskatchewan. And I know you moved away quite young, man, 16 years old, out of province, top junior league in the country. What was that like, man? Do you remember feeling those pressures early on? I know it was, I similarly moved away from home at a young age, and it was tough, man. There was sure extra freedom, but billet family, and I didn't know what I was getting into. What was that like for you, man? Do you think it held you back some, or did it help set you up for the start of the successes you had in your career?
Yeah, moving away at such a young age, I think you don't really know what you're getting yourself into at such a young age. I remember going to Lethbridge. I never really experienced any pressures, any of those feelings. I was still a young kid at the time. I was pumped just to say I was playing in the WHL. When I originally found out the start of that season I was making it, I was pumped. I'd always been the top dog on every team that I played. When I finally, you got out there and you think, oh, it's going to be maybe not a cakewalk, but you're not really sure what you're getting yourself into. And then you get out there and you're playing 5 minutes a night, and then you start questioning yourself a little bit, and then you're not going home to your parents at night. I remember going home to my billet family and just hiding in my room and not talking and mad. I can remember, being 16 and coming up after games and pretty much bawling to my dad saying, I want to go home. I'm not playing. I'm not having fun. I'm homesick. I remember just coming up and we talked for a while and he had to talk me off the ledge a little bit and be like, hey, it's all right. You're going to get through this. And give a lot of credit to him because I was the first son that he had that had been going through this. And I can just remember that game coming up and just so frustrated. Couldn't understand why I wasn't playing and why things weren't going the way I wanted them to. And then, like you said, when you have a bad game at that age, you're 16 years old, you're going home to a billet family. Sure, they're there for you and they love you, but it's not the same as going home to your parents. And I can remember that year. I remember counting down the days at Christmas, and then I remember counting down the days till the season was done at the end of the year. I was so homesick. I was ready to go home and see my parents again. It was tough. It was really tough. And like you said, you go into it not knowing what you're getting yourself into and how hard it's really going to be.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Now, because I know I've followed your career some, or looked up the progression you've had, man, and it's pretty phenomenal. So was there a moment that changed for you, like that first off season? Because you jump ahead 2 years from what you just shared, you're captaining the club and arguably entering the prime of your career. Was there a big shift for you there mentally, or did your game just progress at a different level? What happened there that you were able to gain that confidence and progress the way you did in your career, man?
Yeah, I think, like I said, that first year was an eye opener, and so much learning went into that year. I didn't realize how hard I had to work to get to where I needed to be. The summers before, you spend a lot of time at the lake, you spend a lot of time with your buddies. I think those next the next couple of summers, I really dialed into training and my skating and my diet and that. So yeah, I think I was always a pretty mature kid. So I think once I realized what I had to do, I was pretty dialed in and focused on what I had to do to get to the next level after seeing some of the guys that were in Lethbridge that were moving on to the pro ranks and seeing how they went about their day-to-day stuff. So I just took it all in and realized what it was going to take to get to where I needed to be.
Hey, Arnie, you keep saying about your 16-year-old year and how it's a year that you won't forget. And you told me you could have mailed it in countless number of times. You calling dad crying, you going through it because you're so used to playing top end minutes. Now you're in and out of the lineup and whatnot. Now that you're out of it, now you're obviously in the AHL having a successful career. Now looking back, Arnie, because there's a lot of kids that are probably going through that first time moving away from home, knowing top end kid in midget AAA, and now first year WHL, NCAA, you name it. Now they're in and out of the lineup. And there's a lot of kids in your shoes wanting to mail it in. Hell, I could relate with my career and how it happened to me too. What's something that you wish you would have known that you know now? And maybe you could translate that to someone that is going through that. Maybe a younger kid, first year in the WHL, struggling in and out of the lineup, don't know who to talk to, and can't get their confidence back, can't get their game back. Do you know anything you get off your head that you could help out a kid right now?
Yeah, should I go through that stuff right now? It's pretty similar, I think, to this season. I look at it as my rookie year in the American League. Last year, I was up here for a while, but I only played 10 games. This is my first full crack at it. And I've thought a few times about like how I compare it to my 16-year-old year. It's in the Western League. But today, you got to take it one day at a time. You can't get looking too far ahead. You get worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. It's not good for you. It's not going to help you in any way. And I know how hard that can be. Easier said than done. But I go to the rink every day looking to put 100% effort into everything that I do and not cut any corners. Because when you go home at night and think about things, you don't want to be dwelling on why did I do 2 sets instead of 3? Why did I half-ass that drill? I think for me to be in the best state of mind is I got to know I put everything into it every day. And that way you cut out a lot of regrets. And I find for me personally that when I look in the mirror and I know that I gave it 100%, that I feel good about myself going to bed that night.
Yeah, and that's huge, man, because the people who I talk about and your name gets brought up and all they say is you're a hard ass worker, man. You're a guy that's unbelievable in the dressing room and you're a guy these kids look up to. And I remember you telling me, Joe, obviously you're a top end defenseman and something about your role had to change. And maybe that was dropping the gloves when you're hitting the 19, 20-year-old year. Obviously you're the captain. You had to be the leader, sticking up for the teammates. How was that transition for you? Because I know there's a lot of athletes out there that maybe don't really have a choice of fighting or not. Maybe they thought they're a skill guy, have to make some change in their playing ability, and now they got to fight. How is that for you, Arnie? Because I know there's obviously, if you go on YouTube and type in your name, there's a lot of scraps, but I want to know Joe Arntsen and how you deal with that now.
Yeah, I think I never went into junior being like, yeah, I want to fight. I'm looking forward to the fighting aspect of things. Happened a couple times when I was 16, just bang where it happens. And then 17, I had a couple good ones. And then when I became captain at 18, I thought I got to stand up for these guys. I did a little bit before, and I think that was the first year that I took that responsibility to make sure no one was coming after my teammates or whatnot. And I think that's probably the first year that I felt the pressure of fighting, laying in bed at night and thinking about it. And whoever you're playing that night, they might have a guy that wants to go, and thinking and dwelling on that, which it's hard. It keeps you up at night. It makes it hard to nap the night before or the day of the game. And even now, I know you go into a game thinking about it. Yeah, I try not to look at it. I try to just play the game. I like to think I don't want to ever become a fighter that plays hockey. I always like to tell myself I'm a hockey player that fights. Hockey player first, if it happens, if it doesn't. Because I found in junior, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And then my first few shifts, I'm so wired that I can't even make a play. And then I'm mad at how I'm playing the game, and the fight never even happened. So I spent 2 days worrying about something that never even happened. I try not to think on it too much. Like I said before, everything's easier said than done. But I try to just think before a game, if I know there's a chance, I try and tune it out and just think about the hockey side of things, play my game, because it's hard and it's a tough role and it's not for everybody. And like you said about some of those guys that got to change their game, not everybody's got to go out there and fight. Make sure you know it's on your own time. It's on your clock. Don't ever feel the pressure or someone's force you to fight. That's not what it's about. It's always on your own time, and that's something that I really believe in, is that I'm going to do it when I want to do it. I'm never going to put myself in a vulnerable position to do it because I feel pressured by someone to do it. I don't think that's the right way to do things. But yeah, like I said before, I had to change it. Like I said, I didn't think about it. I had a couple really good ones when I was young, and I was like, oh, I'm good at this. I can maybe do this. And then once you get older, you realize how hard it is to make it to the next level. And I thought that was an advantage that would get me to this league and keep me here. And it has. And like I said, I would rather score 50 goals and stay in this league than fight. But at the end of the day, I wasn't given those skills.
Yeah, props to you, man, for in a lot of ways literally fighting your way to that level. But I know you have other attributes, just the short time I've known you here. But I know this podcast titled Away from the Rink, but I just wanted to talk about how you do deal with some of those on ice pressures real quick for kids playing today, leagues worldwide getting into that playoff push, big games on the docket. Looking back to the championship run last year, some big games in the WHL. Are you a guy that like to keep it loose in the room, or were you like locked in, right, in the build up to game time? What does that look like? What can you say could help not just youth, but anyone going into this playoff push with dealing with those pressures before a big game?
Yeah, I think personally, I get to the rink pretty early. I keep it light. I don't think there's any point in sitting at the rink 3 hours before the game, locked in for 3 straight hours. I think you just are going to mentally drain yourself. But personally, for me, I get to the rink early, keep it light, look at some lineups, some papers, read the game plan, that sort of thing. But if I'm joking, I like to keep it light. And then the closer that I get to a game is when I feel I need to start locking in and mentally preparing and getting my body ready. Yeah, I think you can't spend too much time stressing about being locked in. I think you got to keep it loose and have fun. That's why you play the game. Kick the sewer ball around, keep it loose, have fun. But when it's time to lock in, it's time to lock in. But I don't think personally for me, I don't like to spend too much time because I think you get in your own head a little bit if you think on stuff too much. I like to keep it light, and then just maybe 30 minutes before I'm going to start really locking in. And I think that gives me the perfect timeline to not play myself out and overthink the game, but still be ready to go when that puck drops.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, and just I wanted to touch on we talked about at the rink and now away from the rink at that level. What does that look like? I know you technically may be a rookie this year. Do you hang out with mostly the younger guys? I feel it's a tight-knit group there, and I know the coaching staff there is solid. What does away from the rink look like locally there in Abbotsford, road trips, stuff like that? Are you guys tight-knit, and how do you contribute to that as a younger guy?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, like I said, I think for the most part, on a day-to-day basis at home, we end up spending so much time on the road here just with how much travel we got that for the most part, I think when I'm home, I spend a lot of time at home with my girlfriend. We're usually a week or two at home and then a week or two on the road. You get a ton of time to spend with the guys on the road. But on a day-to-day, like I said, I'm only like 3 minutes from the rinks. I just make the commute back and forth and spend a lot of time at home with her. When it's not raining here, it's some beautiful country, and we like to get out. There's a lot of like provincial parks and stuff like that. Like I said, growing up on the farm, I like to get outside, and I can't be cooped up for too long. A lot of hikes, fresh air, I think, is a big thing for me. I think I spend too much time staring at the screen or my TV isn't good for my mental health at all. So I like to get outside, get some fresh air if the weather allows me. And then on the road, we're very fortunate in this division to go down to California, Tucson, Colorado. And we're always going 2 days before. Lots of suppers, lots of card games. Yeah, super close. When you spend as much time as we do sitting in airports and on the bus, you become really close with the guys. But like I said, it can be a grind to travel at times, but some of the best nights are going for supper with guys and just bullshitting around the table, having great suppers, and going to these beautiful cities.
Yeah, Arnie, where's your favorite spot? What's your favorite place to play to? What's that swing that you kind of circle on your calendar that you're looking forward to?
I love Tucson's a lot of fun. The weather's always nice, and San Diego's another one. We spend right downtown in San Diego. You're about 10-minute walk from the water, and there's some phenomenal restaurants down there. So I think those two are probably my favorite two cities to go to.
Yeah, no, it's probably awesome getting to travel and going to do it. I don't know if it would ever get old being a 10-year guy in the league, get to go back, and now you're familiar with it and whatever. But it goes back to the weather, hey, because I remember playing down in Everett, Washington there. She was raining every single day. And I remember it snowed once and the whole city shut down because they didn't have any snow plows or anything. They had maybe one in the city, but it shut down there. But before we continue on here, we're going to take a quick break with Joe Arntsen on Away from the Rink podcast. This episode of After is proudly sponsored by the Mental Health Classic Hockey Tournament. This isn't just hockey, it's about bringing families, athletes, and communities together to start real conversations about mental health. It's about showing young athletes they're not alone and that it's okay to talk about whatever they are going through. Sign up your son or daughter for Saskatoon August 8th and 9th or Kindersley August 15th and 16th at mentalhealthclassic.ca. That's mentalhealthclassic.ca. Let's hit the ice, have fun, and make a real impact on and off the ice. Welcome back to episode 6 Away from the Rink podcast. Got Mr. Joe Arntsen with us today. Joe, man, it's super inspiring hearing about your career. You started out in Dinsmore, made your way to WHL at 16 years old. Super inspiring, dude. And obviously, captain, 3 years, started out at 18. Like an 18-year-old captain in WHLs is rare. That's unheard of. Like, super cool. So congratulations to you. Now, we haven't really dived into last year's season, man. Not many people could say it. You got a Calder Cup under your belt, man. Do you want to give a little background of that year or maybe a couple memories that kind of that you remember that kind of open up to you? Or do you have anything that you want to share last year? That was cool, man. Did you get to take it home to Dinsmore for a week? What did you do with the Cup when you went home? And explain to us how you enjoyed your time with the Cup.
Yeah, I think talking about the season in general, you come into the year, I wanted to make the team right from camp and ended up getting sent down to the coast, which I mean is a tough start to the season, but I think I'm not sure why, but I handled it a lot better than I thought. And I got down there and I like I said, I put my work boots on and every day I spent extra time at the rink. Maybe it was in the gym or on the ice. Like I just grinded every day to get back to Abbotsford. That was the goal. I wanted to get back to Abbotsford, and it took a while. Like I said, mid-February, or start of February, and then got the call up here. And yeah, like I said, I knew we were going to have a good team going into the playoffs. Like I said, Van wasn't going to make it, so we were going to get a bunch of guys sent down, and we were already rolling. Like I said, I think at one point we won 13 games straight, which like I said is pretty incredible, but I spent 13 straight games in the press box, which is hard. It's not easy, but you can't really complain in those moments when the team's winning. It's not like you're sitting there and they're losing. They were winning every game, so I was just pumped to be along for the ride. Like I said earlier, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. After the first couple of months, they moved me into the department, and then I knew I was going to be around for the rest of the year. That kind of was a weight off my shoulders a little bit. I'm not having to worry going into the rink every morning if I was going to get called into the coach's office to tell I was going back down. And then once we went on that 13-game winning streak, there was, I think, a moment within the whole group that they realized that we could do something special this year. And then with, I think, 3 games left, the NHL was done, and Vancouver, I think we got six or seven guys sent down. And then from there on out, we were rolling all playoffs long. And it didn't matter who was in the lineup, whatever. I've never seen a team so committed and so dialed into winning. Everybody embraced their role right from the get-go. We had a big playoff series against Tucson, which was they were a big, heavy team. They had some really tough guys. They played super hard. And if they ever went out one guy, I'd never seen the other 4 guys jump on top of that guy so fast to protect each other. And from there on out, we just rolled. And it didn't matter if guys were playing 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Everybody came in after a game pumped. They knew we were 1 game closer. And then you always want to win, but it really clicked when we won our division and we were heading to the semis, when I was like, oh shit, we got a chance. Like, we have a legit chance. I just spent 4 or 5 years in the Western League, never making out of the first round. And we beat Texas, and the city was incredible. It was incredible to be here. The fans were lined up outside the rink before we even got to the rink. And then we won that, and it was crazy. I never had a doubt. We were so deep as a team where we rolled every night, and we just rolled four lines and just wore teams down. And I can remember, I think it was game 5 in the finals at home. I wasn't playing that game, so me and the other scratches, it went to overtime, so we got dressed in case we won and got to go out onto the ice. And I can remember they shot a puck from below the goal line that went off our guy's stick, off his shin pad, ricocheted across the crease to another D-man of ours and in the back of the net. And we were devastated. But guys, it was crazy how quick guys turned the page. We could have won the Calder Cup at home in front of a sold-out barn. It would have been the dream ending, picture perfect. But it was insane how fast guys turned the page. For maybe 5 minutes, guys dwelled on it, a little swearing in the dressing room, this and that. But there's just everyone rallied in that moment. It was like, hey, like we're going back. There's no way we're not winning this. And then we get down there and we go down 2-0 right off rip. And again, I wasn't playing, and I started sweating in the stands, and I was like, oh no, like we cannot go to game 7. And it took, I remember the whole game, I think, I don't know exact time, it was mid-third when we scored the go-ahead goal. And then we went down and got dressed again. And I can remember I was so nervous. I was just about throwing up in the dressing room, and I wasn't even playing. And then there's a face-off. It was like 5 seconds. And I was like, we did it. Like, we won. And to be part of that was something so special. I'll never forget it. It still feels like a dream a little bit. Like, it doesn't really feel like it happened. To be part of that, and it was like 2.5 months of just grinding every day. Like, guys icing and taping shoulders, and they're beat up so bad. Guys have been away from their families for months on end. To win it all and see all the sacrifice that you've put in pay off was something so special to me. And I can't say enough great things about this city for how they rallied around us and how much fun I had during that. It's something so special to me, and I'll never forget it.
That's awesome, Joe. Thanks for sharing,
That's cool.
man. Yeah, congrats on that championship. Pro title is hard to come by, but yeah, I just wanted to ask you, like, back to the mental side of things. With, you briefly touched on your support network and the upbringing of your partner who you live with now. Again, away from the rink, what does it look like, and what maybe touch on what some of the struggles today are, and who you're leaning on to deal with that? Is it like teammates, partner, family, combination of all that? What does that look like for you today, Joe?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's Taylor. I come home to her every day, and she's my rock. She's level-headed no matter what. Some games I come in storming mad over a play I made or whatever. Sometimes I come in happy, sometimes I come in sad. But no matter how I come in, she's always level-headed, and I can't imagine where I'd be without her. I'd make things a lot harder for myself if I didn't have her. And then obviously when I pick up the phone, I think about my parents first off too. They're there no matter what. They don't look at me as Joe Arntsen, the hockey player. They look at me as Joe Arntsen, their son. And no matter what I got to say to them, I know I got them in my corner. I got 3 siblings that I can't say enough good things about them and the sacrifices that they've made for me to chase this dream. And same thing, I keep in touch with all of them every day, and we're always texting. They got their struggles, I got my struggles, and we know that we're there for each other at all times. I got Deej too. I talk to Deej when I'm at my lowest, and he's always there for me. Same thing. He's been through it. He doesn't look at me as a hockey player. He looks at me as a human with feelings. And I think that's one thing that fans don't think about is we're humans. We're not hockey players. We're humans. And we struggle just like any other human does. Personally, for me, it's hard. You got to really, I think it's probably one of the toughest mentally jobs I think you can have, is because nobody puts more pressure on us than ourselves. And to do that, there's lots of games I'm really hard on myself, and I can get negative, I notice. Is I got to work on my positive self-talk. A lot of times I come home, I feel like shit about myself. And like I said, it comes back to Taylor. She's always on me about my self-talk and how there's a lot of games I come home and I feel like a piece of shit, like a failure. And she always brings me down to ground level. And we talk about it for a little bit, and then I like to put it behind me. I don't like to, as much as I'm not great at it, and I still dwell on things a lot. I try my best to leave the game at the rink and come home and just be myself. Leave work at the rink. I don't like to dwell on things too much, or try to anyways. I like to say I don't, but I do, and it's hard, but I got a great support system. My parents have been out here a couple of times. I just had my grandparents out here the other weekend to come watch me. I can't thank them personally enough. From the bottom of my heart, I wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah, that's super cool. Hey, having a supportive family, especially a supportive girlfriend and stuff. Love to hear it, Arnie. Hey, question for you. Now you're on obviously Abbotsford. The mental health on your guys' team, is it brought up? Now, obviously, you guys probably have some coaches on your team, mental health performance coach, probably a couple doctors and stuff. Now, I know mental health has gotten better, obviously, since when me and G-Bones kind of played. We had none of that. It was a suck it up and kind of battle with your own demons or whatever. But how is it with Abbotsford? Do you feel any shame? Let's say if you are having an off day and you walk in the dressing room, do you have guys in your team that you could open up to? And is it like a normal thing? Because it's the AHL, man. Like it's the American Hockey League, step below from the show. Is mental health talked about in your guys' dressing room?
Yeah, yeah. I think 100% it is. 100%. I think I might not be when we're sitting in the locker room with 20 guys, maybe not as much talked about, but I got tons of guys that if you're, standing beside them one on one, they'll be like, hey, like if you got something going on, reach out to me. Like I said, I don't know how common it is when you're standing in front of 20 guys to speak out. Like that might be one of the hardest things. It's hard enough to speak to one person, let alone to do it in front. But no, we got mental performance coaches that are at the rink all the time, that doctors. Vancouver takes the mental health stuff pretty serious. I know they lost a guy, I can't remember, a couple years ago when he was playing in Vancouver to the mental health thing. So they're on top of it really well, and yeah, I really appreciate that. No, but like I said, we got one of the best captains, I think, in all of hockey.
Sasky boy, right?
In Watt. Yeah, oh yeah, good Sasky boy from up by Battleford there in Watt.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone take care of a team so well and be so genuine while dealing with all the pressure that he does. And he's got a lot on his plate at all times, and you'd never know because he'd give you the shirt off his back in a heartbeat and not think twice about it. And he might be one of the easiest guys that I've ever seen to open up to and talk to about it. He's always there for you. I've grown really close with him over this season, and he is a phenomenal captain. I can't say enough good things about that human. He means so much to this team, and I know there's a ton of guys that reach out and talk to him, and he's always there, and he's very vocal about it, that if anybody's ever going through anything, that he's in your corner, and it trickles down throughout the whole team. It starts with him, and he sets the example, but I could go into that locker room and talk to any one of those guys and feel comfortable talking about it, which is huge, because I think this is probably one of the harder places to play. Everyone thinks of it as warmer winter, but if you're not from here, it is very hard not seeing the sun for weeks on end like we do out here. And I know it affects the guys a lot. It affects me personally a ton. I find it after a week or two of rain, you wake up one morning and you see the sun, you don't realize how much it is affected your mood and your personality and like that. Yeah, it's talked about a ton. I'm super, super thankful for it because the season's long. There's ups and downs, and you need to have that support system around you, or you'll beat yourself up so bad you won't be able to play anymore.
Yeah, I'm just looking over at Gio right now, and he's smirking up at me just because we never really had that. Hey, growing up back in the day, and when you said about your captain that you could go up to your captain and say whatever, because a quick story about mine, Arnie, I don't know if I've told you this, but when I was playing in Everett, when I was struggling with my alcohol and my mental health, drinking all the time, I had one or two buddies that would play on the team that we would be drinking together, and never once were one of us showing any weakness. And when I left Everett and did my thing, this would have been 10 years later, I got a Facebook message. Obviously, I'm sober now. I got a Facebook message from my old teammate in Everett that I used to party with, and we were really close. Great guy. Lost touch of both what we were doing or whatever, and he reaches out to me on Facebook and asks me how I'm doing, and I was like, hey, man, like, really good to hear from you. How are you doing? And got talking or whatever, and he said, hey, DJ, I got something to tell you, man. I'm super proud of you that you're sober and doing what you're doing, helping out these athletes, because you and I both know none of this went on when we were playing, but he said, Deej, I was going through the exact same thing that you were going through. And we both had a little pause. We ended up having a little cry together, but we just said, we're just like, why didn't one of us would have spoke up? But that's just what it was. Showing no weakness. And both of us were struggling at the same time, hanging out all the time, but not one of us asked each other how we were doing. So that just goes back, and it was just a heartfelt message. I'm super happy I got that message, but for him to say that, it's just it goes back. So that's why I love asking these questions and hearing that there's mental health talked about in these hockey dressing rooms. It doesn't fucking matter how old you are. You could be 40 years old or however old guy in the AHL, but still have mental health problems away from the rink, right, G?
Yeah, exactly. And just, not only like the age doesn't matter, but the level now, right?
Exactly.
I think in the past, there was always the stigma there, I think. It seemed, and Arnie touched on it earlier, you're dehumanized when you get to these higher levels.
Yeah.
In all sports, we can understand it more with hockey. And it's, man, there's still struggle and there's stuff that happens. And it's just because maybe you have a bigger paycheck or some sort of status in the world or the community, it doesn't make you immune from the struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest change we're starting to see, and that's what we want to push for. Yeah.
And especially, sorry, G, to interrupt you, but especially, I always go back to everyone sees Arnie. I'm going to use, obviously, you as an example, but people just see you on the ice. People see social media. Arnie, you get free sticks, you get free hockey gear, you get a nice place to live, you're getting treated well, all the best hotels on the road, the best food on the road. But no one, like, how is Arnie doing? How's his family doing? How's his girlfriend doing? How are you doing as an individual? Because some people, the fans, they sometimes forget that you're a human, like you said at the start. Hey, Arnie, you probably came across those situations a time or two, hey?
Yeah, oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I see that all the time. I think growing up where I did, I think over the years, I think a lot of people might have taken a different look at me or approach to me because of the lifestyle I'm very fortunate to have. I love it, and there is so many great perks to this lifestyle, but at the same time, I think that's the only thing people see. They don't realize that for the last, I don't know, out of my last 20 months or 22 months, I've been away for 19 of them.
Yeah.
They don't realize how hard that is to be away from your family so much. I think people only focus on the good. They don't realize what goes in behind it and how hard that can be. Like I said before, though, I don't like to complain too much or try not to because of how fortunate I am and how great this lifestyle is. But at the same time, it does, I guess it annoys me in a way sometimes when people only see the good and only are like, a lot of times that's all I talk to about people is hockey.
Yeah.
And I go home and it's not their fault. I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
That's a common ground for us to talk about. But when I go home at night and I've had 25 conversations about the same thing, it gets a little bit old. Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, growing up where I did after the season, I'll go home for the first week. I won't leave the farm. I'll just completely unplug, unwind, and give myself a little reset before I venture back out into the world, I guess, in a way. I just go home and my family's great about it. We won't even talk about hockey. I'll be like, hey, I just need a break. Let's just to go home and have some laughs and be a kid again around my parents with my siblings is the best thing because it's tough sometimes after spending 9, 10 months of hockey every single day to go home and just talk hockey again. I'm like, you know what? Let's change the subject. I don't want to dwell on hockey or think about that because even in the summer, I still get a lot of anxiety about thinking about hockey and performing and the fights I might have to have next season. So when I go home, I try to completely unplug from the game. I think that's really important for me personally because you can't, like I said, hyperfixate on one thing so often. I mean, it'll eat you alive and ruin your love for the game if you do. So in that sense, I'm so fortunate to grow up where I did, where I can unplug and get away from the city, get away from society as a whole, and just go back to being a kid again.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. And I don't mind you diving in a little deeper to help out these athletes because hockey is a new beast. We always say this on this podcast Kids are playing hockey 365 days of the year. Hell, you're playing 10 months. You're gone for 2 weeks playing so many games a week, Arnie. And now kids are relating with you, and that burnt out term is being said more than often. What are some things that helps you? Because you said you go home for a week, you're an off switch for that week. You're at home, probably farming with the old man and the family and stuff. But what are some things that kind of fills up Joe's cup in the off season? Because you said you have anxiety in the off season. You're thinking about who you're fighting next year. You're thinking about the season, but you got to find some ways for yourself, Joe. That's the off switch. What are some things that helps you that kind of get your mind off the game to enjoy you being a human? Because fuck, at the end of the day, Joe, you're a human, man.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like I said, I played some spring hockey growing up, but I played baseball. I played everything. I wasn't back then. I didn't think anything about hockey. I played hockey because everybody played hockey, and I think now these kids that play it so much, it's too much in my opinion. You got to be a kid. You got to play everything. You got to enjoy. Sure, you might play hockey year round, but hell, you don't know. What if you play basketball and you love basketball more than you love hockey? I think it's super easy to ruin your love of the game if you spend so much time on one thing. It's like anything. You do too much anything, it's not good for you. But personally for myself, like I said, but when the season's done, I'll spend a couple days usually packing up and then I go home and I usually on a regular, not counting last year, every other season I've been home end of April, start of May. I'll spend that whole month at the farm, maybe do some workouts at home, just maybe just trying to tone up the beach bod or something like that. But I'm not training for hockey. The bag's put away. I played baseball up until 2 years ago. I loved it. And then obviously once I turned pro, I thought I better maybe lay off. I don't know how well that'd go over if I ended up getting injured playing
Snap
baseball.
ankle around in second.
Yeah, digging for home. But I still go in and hang out with my buddies all the time. My cousin's got a place just off the river, about 25, 30 minutes. Go down there, hang out, jump on his boat, spike ball, all the good stuff. I think in the summer, even once I get training, I'll work out, skate in the morning, and then once I'm done, I'm done. I'm not thinking about that anymore. You got to enjoy the little things too. You can't spend your whole life thinking about hockey and dwelling on it. For me personally, I can't. But it'll eat me up inside. And you got to go into the season eager and excited to head back. And I think if I spend too much time focusing on hockey in the summer, by the time I get to the season, I'm not excited to be there. And that's a problem because, when I play hockey because I enjoy it, because I love it. I love hanging out with the guys. I love going to battle. And I think that's important for kids to really think about is why do you play? Don't play because you feel the pressure that you have to play. If you don't love it anymore, don't play. Do what you love. If you're not playing hockey, that's for the love of the game. That's a problem in my eyes because you're not having fun, you're not enjoying it, and you only get one crack at life. I like to always think about that is do what you love. I know, and I've told myself that if I ever lose the love for the game, that I'll be done. I don't want to pressure myself. I want to do what makes me happy. I want to do what makes my family happy, and that's what I'm going to do. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, I'm a human. I'm not a hockey player. I do whatever I want to make myself happy and the people around me happy.
Yeah, that's really well said, Joe. Thanks again for sharing. This has been an awesome conversation, man. Last question for me, because I'm still blown away just at this last 6 or 7 years, this progression you had, man, from moving away from home, being homesick, just this huge life change to winning championships in the American League and close family, awesome teammates, and you seem pretty content, man. So what's the biggest turning point you think through that 6-7 year journey that's helped you get to this place where you seem pretty rock solid, buddy?
Yeah, I think just like consistency of hard work and being a good human will take you farther in hockey than talent ever will.
I love that.
I've seen a lot of guys ruin their careers by being shitty humans. I grew up on a ranch and I watched my grandpa and my dad work their ass off every day. And I think I'm so fortunate to have seen that because, when it's time to, sorry guys, my computer, I just got to plug this in.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I always ask the boys about the rookie parties. No, we won't do that one. It's too late in the game, I think. But after he's done, I'll wrap up with my question.
Sorry, can you just ask that question again? I'll just answer from the top again.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, Joe, thanks. This has been awesome stuff, man. Last question for me, buddy. I'm just still blown away at this progression over the last 6-7 years, buddy. Going from moving away from home at 16, being homesick, not knowing what any of that's supposed to look like, to winning championships in the American League, Calder Cup champion, great support network. What are some big turning points, or maybe the biggest turning point through that progression for you, man, that has helped you get to this place where you seem content and pretty locked in, buddy?
Yeah, I think just hard work and being a good human is something that I try to do every day. That'll take you farther in hockey than talent ever will. There's been a lot of guys that I've watched throughout the years with unreal talent, but aren't great guys that ruin their careers. And I've seen guys who you might look at and be like, oh, he might not make it but at the end of the day, he just kept getting better and better every day and showed up and worked and was a good teammate. And like I said, yeah, hard work for me is and being a good human. Like I said, I grew up on a family ranch in Dinsmore where I watched my dad and my grandpa work their ass off every day to keep things moving out there. And seeing that, I think, inspired me at a young age to have a great work ethic. Just in general, that whole lifestyle, you watch everybody around there, you know, how much work it takes to do something. When I go to the rink and I'm only there 9 o'clock till 1 in the afternoon, I don't see a reason why I can't show up and put everything I have into that day. And like I said before, if I do and give everything that I got that day, I can look at myself in the mirror at night and know that I did, and mentally I'm in a better spot. I just, like I said, people say you don't want to have regrets. And at the end of the day, I don't want to regret not giving everything I had and working as hard as I can to chase this dream, because I still am chasing the dream to play that NHL game. So yeah, like I said, it's not been easy. It's been really hard, but I try to remind myself that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think as I've growing up, it's hard not to look at other guys and other people's career paths and be like, oh, how's he getting this opportunity, or how is he playing in this league, or what's. And I was guilty for that growing up, but now I could care less about other guys' career paths and how they've done. Unless you're on my team, I don't care. I'm focusing on myself every day. If I can, at the end of the night, say I got better at the end of the season, be like, yeah, I gave everything I had and I became a better hockey player, that's all I can do. I can't control what's going on around me. Control the controllables is another great saying that I like to think about. Do what you can to stay. And last year, not to toot my own horn, but the head coach and Abby said a big reason why I stayed was because of how good of a teammate I was in the room. I might not have a Calder Cup championship ring if I wasn't, because at the end of the day, I don't have the skill set to be a shitty teammate. I have to work my ass off, and I have to be a good guy in the locker room, and I have to stand up for guys to be able to stay in this league, which I have no problem doing, and I'm happy doing it. I got to know that I got to bring that every day, or someone's going to take my job.
Yeah. And Arnie, man, thank you so much for sharing that, because all I'm thinking in my head, G, right now is we had the U of S Robin on our podcast last week. And what did Arnie just said? Comparison.
Yep.
Social media, comparing where's this guy going, where's this going, exactly what she said. And Arnie said, being a good person.
Yeah.
No, he would not have a ring on his finger if he was not a good teammate, is what the head coach of Abbotsford said to him.
Yeah.
Athletes, please listen to that one, please.
That's incredible. And blocking out, he's able to block out that comparison, just focus on him and his teammates, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a unique way to do it, especially in today's day and age. So good on you, man.
Yeah, that is huge, Arnie. And you seem like a type of guy where whatever comes at you, man, your head's down and you're just going. You're moving forward. Obviously, you've been through a lot of adversities, but I like to think going through adversities is a good thing. It makes you into the man who you are today. And you go hard, man. And me and G are very proud of you and respect you of everything you're doing. And I like to end off on this question. It's a little more personal, but it's very impactful for people that are listening and yourself. Arnie, when you were younger and maybe before you talked to me, and maybe you could pick a day, a year, or an event in your life where you were struggling. Maybe you're sitting in your room, you're in your thoughts, and maybe you thought there was never a way out. And now you're sitting here today in the knowledge you know now, and maybe you're in the same room as young Arnie right now. What is something that you would say to young Joe Arntsen, if you could, what would you say to him?
Yeah, well, that's a hard question. I think there's so many things, like everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry from tomorrow. You know, everything that you're worrying about, half the stuff doesn't happen, and the rest of it you're gonna get through. And I still, to this day, worry about stuff that I shouldn't, but it's hard. It's hard, and no, like I was saying, and speak up, I think is another thing. I wish I maybe would have done it 5 years before I did, before I even entered the Western League, just to have it so that first conversation wasn't so hard to get out and I didn't keep things inside. I think is one thing that I wish I would have done sooner, is just express that. And you shouldn't have to worry about that stuff while you're trying to perform at the rink. I think it's super hard. There's days I'm at the rink and I don't want to skate and I don't want to be there and I'm down in the dumps and I go on the ice and I'm not as good as I need to be because of that, because my mind is wandering about, shit elsewhere or whatever. When I open up and talk about it, I find in the days and the weeks after, when I'm at the rink, that I'm more clear-headed and I'm a better player for that. And that's at the end of the day what I'm out here to do, is be the best hockey player I can. And I find that I can't do that when I've got so much stuff on my plate that I'm trying to handle by myself. I guess another thing is, you have so many people in your corner, more than you'll ever even realize, people that are fighting for you. Between, you got your family, your friends, coaches, teammates, like there's so many people in your corner. Don't think you got to fight these battles alone, because you don't. And everything is easier as a team. And when you open up and talk about that and get that stuff off your plate and deal it with people, like yourself, DJ, who have been through it and who have these clients and work with stuff and are professionals at it, it's way easier. Don't think you got to do it on your own, because there's always people who have done it that are smarter and wiser and have been through it and know, what you're going through and what can help. But don't try and, like I said, don't try and do it on your own, because you're just going to make it 10 times harder for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Arnie, man, thank you so much. We learned a lot. I know these parents are going to learn something from this episode, because, hey, you're a guy that's walked through it and you're playing AHL hockey. And you gave us some good insight on what happens on personally yourself. I know a lot of other athletes are relatable with you, what goes on away from the rink. Arnie, thank you, man. We're proud of you. I know it's not hard to have conversations like this, because we're hockey players, we're men, but I know when we keep having conversations like this, it's going to help out somebody out there that is struggling, that was once in our shoes. So, Arnie, thank you so much for coming on the After Away podcast, buddy. We are super proud of you, and just keep going, my friend.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Happy to come on. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Guys, that is episode 6 of After Away from the Rink podcast. Any of you guys listening out there, that phone could weigh 30 pounds. But if you pick up that phone and ask for help, that could be a game changer. So any of you guys struggling out there, you are never alone. I know myself and G-Bones, that's what turned it for us. And now we're giving back. Now we're sharing some stories. We're sharing our lived experiences and bringing on Mr. Arntsen. And that is episode 6 of Away from the Rink podcast.